51. Lessons on arrogance in Eastern and Western cultures. A person with an arrogant heart often relies on their own material or spiritual superiority to consider themselves above others. Sometimes they may not even realize it, but if this mindset grows stronger, it can become very dangerous. During the spring and autumn period, there was a year when the state of Qi suffered a famine and people were dying everywhere. Kim Gao was a wealthy man. At that time, he acted out of kindness and decided to cook rice to distribute to the poor. Day by day, people from all over came to receive rice from Kim Gao, endlessly expressing their gratitude and praising his virtue. Over time, this inevitably made him swell with pride, become arrogant, and look down on others. One day, Kim Gao saw a man who had been starving for days, staggering along the road. He picked up a bowl of rice and, with a scornful tone, said, "Hey you, come here and eat." Unexpectedly, the man glared at Kim Gao and proudly replied, "It's because I refuse to accept food from someone who speaks like you that I ended up in this situation." Having said that, he walked away. Not long after, the man died of starvation. It was then that Kim Gao regretted that although he had no intention of harming anyone and wholeheartedly wanted to do good, his arrogance had unintentionally wounded another person's pride, ultimately turning a good deed into a bad one. Arrogance not only turns good deeds into bad ones, but is also the fundamental cause of failure. There is a saying, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle." Arrogant people often see themselves as the center of everything, looking down not only on those around them, but also on their opponents. Zhang Yu lost the world, Guan Yu lost Jingzhou, all because of arrogance and failing to truly know themselves or their enemies. Arrogance can also give rise to prejudice. This kind of prejudice is dangerous because it makes people believe only in what they can experience and perceive themselves. If they don't see it themselves, they won't believe it, thinking they already hold all knowledge in their hands. In fact, to defend their so-called personal opinions, people are willing to reject anything that doesn't align with their understanding, viewing the world through an extremely narrow lens while still taking pride in what they believe to be superior wisdom, just like a frog sitting at the bottom of a well. We all know that the demons mentioned in Western religions were originally fallen gods, and the reason for their fall was arrogance. Lucifer was originally a perfect deity beside God, but because of his arrogance and self-importance, he believed only in his own power and refused to follow God's commands. In the end, he led the angels in a rebellion against heaven. After being cast down to the earthly realm, Lucifer, still arrogant and unrepentant, continued to corrupt humanity, ultimately falling into hell and becoming the demon Satan. In Buddhism, there is a similar story about Devadatta. He was originally the cousin of Shakyamuni Buddha and had followed the Buddha for many years, but his arrogance never faded, leading him to commit all kinds of evil deeds. Because of his arrogance, he even looked down on the Buddha, left the monastic community on his own, learned dark arts and sorcery elsewhere, then returned to harm the Buddha, hoping to replace him as the leader of the monastic order. The Buddha spoke of 5 grave offenses that can lead a person to fall into hell. Devadatta, arrogant and cruel, feared nothing and committed all 5 of these offenses. For that reason, although he had once followed the Buddha in spiritual practice, in the end, he not only failed to attain enlightenment, but also fell into a Vici hell. Perhaps because of such profound lessons, both Christianity and Buddhism, the West and the East, regard arrogance as a root of all kinds of evil. Christianity holds that the 7 roots of sin that lead humanity to fall are pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. Meanwhile, the Avatamsaka Sutra in Buddhism teaches that the 3 greatest obstacles for a practitioner are arrogance, envy, and desire. This shows that all true religions regard arrogance as the root of sin. The end. The Tao Te Ching teaches, the highest good is like water. Water benefits all things without competing with them. A truly good person is like water, able to embrace everyone with tolerance. The ocean becomes the king of all streams because it stays low, allowing the rivers to flow into it. Only when a person is humble, treats others with kindness, places themselves behind others, and avoids arrogance and pride can they master themselves and earn the respect of others. And only when one lets go of personal prejudice can they observe the world with rational eyes, see the true nature of things, attain a higher level of wisdom, know themselves and others, and become undefeatable. 52. The miracle after 100 acts of tolerance toward others. Everything people do is recorded and will surely be repaid with either good or bad consequences. The following story reminds us that tolerance, the ability to endure anything, can bring lasting happiness. During the Tang Dynasty, there was a man named Zhang Gongye. In his lifetime, he could endure things that ordinary people could not. He vowed to carry out 100 extraordinary acts of tolerance in his life, and he fulfilled that vow every single day. Because of that, people called him Zhang Bai Ren, meaning 100 acts of tolerance or 100 instances of tolerance. Zhang Bai Ren never argued with others while working with them. He was strict with himself but generous with others. Over the years, he endured a total of 99 extraordinary acts of tolerance, and with just one more, he would fulfill his vow. One day, Zhang Bai Ren's grandson got married, and he invited many friends to the wedding. They prepared a lavish banquet to welcome the guests. As it got close to noon, a beggar arrived. Zhang Bai Ren said, "Don't give him a hard time. Give him some food and let him leave after he eats." The servant said that the beggar wanted to come in and sit with all the invited guests. Zhang Bai Ren felt that the request was rather strange, but he still accepted it. Wearing a filthy and foul-smelling monk's robe, the beggar entered the room, walked up to Zhang Bai Ren and said, "Thank you for your generosity. Today is your grandson's wedding, and I came especially to offer my congratulations. But I have one more request: to share the meal with your most honored guests." Zhang Bai Ren hesitated for a moment, then agreed. He introduced the beggar to the host of the wedding and then said to everyone, "Ladies and gentlemen, today is my grandson's wedding. I want to express my gratitude to all the guests who have come to celebrate with us. This elderly man has just arrived and wishes to dine with us. Please show compassion and offer him a seat." At that moment, the old beggar said, "No, not with the regular guests, but with the guests of honor." Zhang Bai Ren replied, "Why do you insist on sitting among the honored guests? The seat I arranged for you is also reserved for important guests." Upon hearing this, the beggar asked, "Are you truly a man of generosity? How can you treat people differently like that? Wearing fine clothes doesn't mean someone has good character, and wearing ragged clothes doesn't mean someone is low in morals. Why didn't you think it through before acting so hastily?" What the beggar said truly struck a chord with Zhang Bai Ren. He believed the beggar was right. He thought to himself, "I vowed to endure 100 unbearable things. Why let such a small matter trouble me?" So he immediately apologized to the beggar and then turned to all the guests and said, "Please, from my sake, allow this old man to sit in the seat of honor and don't worry about anything inappropriate he might say." Everyone at the wedding agreed to let the beggar sit in the seat of honor. After the banquet ended, all the guests left, but the old beggar remained seated with no sign of leaving. Zhang Bai Ren walked over and asked, "Old man, I believe you've had your fill and it's getting late. How about spending the night here? You can sleep in the kitchen with the cook. Would that be all right?" The old beggar replied, "No. Even if I am a beggar, you shouldn't make me sleep in the kitchen. You need to find me a proper place to sleep." Zhang Bai Ren replied, "Very well, you can sleep in our guest room." Immediately, the beggar said, "No, I will not sleep in the guest room. I believe the bride's room is the most comfortable place in your house, so I will sleep there."
"Tell your grandson to sleep somewhere else." The beggar's statement shocked everyone. Zhang Bairen was about to explode, unable to take it any longer. He said, "Old man, I respect you because of your age, and I've done my best to meet your requests, but I cannot understand why you would make such an inappropriate demand." The beggar replied, "I'm only going to sleep there and nothing more. Why are you being so guarded? I have to say, you're not worthy of the name Zhang Bairen. You should change it to Zhang Buren instead." After hearing the beggar's words, Zhang Bairen didn't know how to respond. After a moment, he said to the beggar, "All right, I'll let you sleep in the bride's room, but I must first ask the groom and the bride." Zhang Bairen spoke with the whole family. His grandson said, "No way, this is a complete insult, absolutely not." The other family members all agreed that the beggar's request was excessive. What if this news gets out? Our reputation will be ruined. Zhang Bairen tried to convince everyone. "I have to say, he doesn't seem like an ordinary beggar. He is already so old. I don't believe he would do anything improper to the bride. Besides, he vowed that he would only sleep in the bride's room and do nothing else. I will arrange for a guard to stand outside the door. If there's any disturbance in the room, the bride just needs to shout and all of us will rush in to help." After hearing those words, the granddaughter-in-law thought what her grandfather said made sense. He had been so generous his whole life that he was respected by everyone for his noble heart, and he was also very fair in disciplining members of our family. People like me should inherit those virtues from him. We should agree to his request so he can complete his 100th act of forbearance. After a while, the whole family came to an agreement. Zhang Bairen went to the living room and invited the old beggar to rest in the bride's room. The beggar smiled and followed him to the room. As soon as he lay down, he fell asleep immediately. The room remained completely quiet throughout the night. At dawn, Zhang Bairen and the others gathered outside the bride's room to wait for the beggar. The bride had also been waiting for them inside the room. She opened the door and said, "I was very scared last night. I didn't sleep at all and sat on the bed the entire night. Fortunately, the old beggar didn't even stir in his sleep." They all looked toward the bed and saw the beggar still sleeping soundly. Zhang Bairen called out to him several times, but the old man didn't respond. He then reached out and pulled back the blanket, only to find, to everyone's surprise, that the beggar was no longer there. In its place was a gleaming golden statue, as large as a person. Upon closer look, he saw that it resembled Tai Bai Ginseng and looked just like the statue worshipped at the local temple. Additionally, 2 lines were engraved on the body of the statue. They read, "Diligent work spares one from worry in life. Harmony always dwells in the palace of 100 acts of forbearance." In the end, Zhang Bairen realized that the old beggar was actually Tai Bai Ginseng who had come to test him. Soon after, news of the event spread throughout the province and beyond. Everyone admired Zhang Bairen and, at the same time, felt the greatness and compassion of the divine beings. They understood that whatever people do in this world is recorded and will surely be repaid with either blessings or retribution. Zhang Bairen was held in even greater respect by the people, and his story served as a reminder to future generations that patience, the ability to endure what seems unbearable, can bring everlasting happiness. A person with great foresight naturally possesses noble character. In life, having a low intelligence quotient is not a big issue, and neither is having a low emotional quotient.
But as a person, you must have great strength of character. To put it plainly, you might not be smart, you might not be good at communicating, but you must possess a noble spirit. If a minor obstacle makes you back down, if a few harsh words get under your skin, or if you harbor hatred and resentment for no reason, then your character is far too petty. The greater your spirit, the greater your success will be. Wise, thoughtful, engaging Lin Zexu of the Qing dynasty once wrote a couplet. The sea becomes vast because it can embrace hundreds of thousands of rivers. A cliff stands tall for thousands of feet because it holds no desire and remains upright. Great character is not something one is born with. It is gradually cultivated through practice and self-discipline. It is the embodiment of vast and righteous energy, powerful and full of inner strength. Such character allows every gesture of a person to exude elegance like the hidden fragrance of orchids, integrity as steadfast as bamboo, and resilience like plum blossoms blooming in the heart of winter. Feng Manglong wrote in Expanded Wisdom Compendium that a true gentleman is someone who can be generous and tolerant even toward petty people. Great character brings calmness, steadiness, grace, and ease to one's conduct and interactions with others. A person of great character is not devoid of emotions and desires, but rather someone who sees through the ways of the world, understands human nature, knows when to advance or retreat, empathizes with others, and learns to help both themselves and others in order to cultivate blessings. Even when faced with boundless sorrow, still wear a smile, allowing nothing to disrupt or disturb the energy within. Always maintain a fresh spirit inside so it can nourish and refresh the soul. 54. Handle matters with humility, avoid contention, and preserve harmony. Hong Ying-ming of the Ming Dynasty once said, "A person who maintains harmony will naturally receive 100 blessings." Deal with tasks peacefully, live with a harmonious heart, and do not waste time on pointless arguments. By letting go of anger, one wins the favor of others, and relationships naturally improve. As a result, everything flows more smoothly, and success comes more easily. Mencius said, "The right time is not as valuable as the right place, and the right place is not as valuable as harmony among people." Harmony is a spirit of tolerance, a mindset of cooperation, an awareness of teamwork, and an atmosphere of unity. Harmony is an external expression, but also a form of inner cultivation. Only those with a harmonious spirit can truly connect with others, collaborate, and succeed in their careers. A person who lives in harmony possesses the depth of virtue needed to support all things. With good character, everything one does will prosper. A person with harmony knows how to embrace others with generosity and understanding, giving credit to others for achievements and taking responsibility for mistakes. Knowing when to advance and when to retreat, having a heart that forgives those who fail, and showing respect for the path of those who succeed. In everything they do, they act with empathy and reason, and treat others with tolerance and fairness. A person with harmony is warm, not indifferent, loyal, not insincere. When they offer kindness to others, it comes from genuine sincerity, neither kept hidden nor boasted about to the world. Never take advantage of others to boost one's own reputation. Always believe that a gentleman remains calm at heart, while a petty person is constantly troubled. Be upright, sincere, and live with integrity. When facing hardship, bear the burden with strength, endure humiliation and suffering to cultivate ambition. A person without aspirations will never succeed. With determination, all things become possible. Confucius said, "An army of 3 divisions may lose its commander, but a true man must never lose his ambition." Having a clear goal and pursuing it with determination is called will. A single beat of the drum ignites the spirit, and pressing on without stopping midway is called vigor. Together, they form willpower. A person without strong willpower has yet to reach the peak of wisdom. Every success in one's career is determined by this quality. When someone faces hardship or humiliation and still remains steadfast in their goal, that is a true display of willpower.
Those who can endure hardship to fulfill great responsibilities will ultimately achieve remarkable success. The historian Sima Qin endured extreme suffering and humiliation to build his legacy, leaving behind the renowned historical work Records of the Grand Historian. He elevated the virtue of endurance to its highest point. The pain, shame, and difficulty of enduring insult, along with the will to withstand disgrace, laid the foundation for the birth of this monumental work.
56. In moments of leisure, reading books brings forth the demeanor of a true scholar. What is known as scholarly demeanor is a kind of grace and refined temperament, an outward reflection of inner virtue. It is the pure essence that radiates from the fragrance of books. It has the power to refine one's thoughts and even one's actions. A person with scholarly demeanor carries books in their heart, and it naturally lights up their face with clarity and brightness.
The study is the essential place to cultivate scholarly demeanor. In the study, books are companions, books are friends. Immersing oneself in a sea of books, engaging in conversations with the wise, and absorbing rich knowledge. Therefore, to foster a scholarly demeanor, one should spend time in the study. The ancients said that mastery lies beyond the walls. To truly develop scholarly demeanor, one should not remain confined to the study, but must step outside, walk alongside the wise, and live in harmony with nature.
The Rich Realities of Social Life are a grand book for nurturing scholarly demeanor. One should step out of the study, bow to receive the earth's energy, allowing the scholarly demeanor to be filled with the pure essence of heaven and earth. Zheng Guofan said, "A person's temperament is innate and very difficult to change. Only reading books can transform that temperament." For a person to maintain their noble character from beginning to end, they must cultivate a scholarly demeanor throughout, allowing that presence to fill their heart and radiate through their surroundings, lingering without cease. A scholarly demeanor also has the quality of deep accumulation that gradually reveals itself over time. Only through cultivation can such depth be amassed. Cultivating a scholarly demeanor is not something achieved in a day or two, it is a lifelong journey. 57th. The judge of the singing competition had a kind heart. In a singing contest, one contestant seemed quite shy when introducing himself, saying that he was an event singer. One of the judges sitting below didn't quite understand and asked him, "What is an event singer?" Then, the judge sitting next to him calmly responded, "That's when a big venue hosts an event. They have an opening ceremony and cut the ribbon. Right at that moment, the singer is there waiting to perform." The other judge, upon hearing that, quickly replied, "Oh, then that's no different from what we do." The judge's clever words gracefully eased the contestants' embarrassment and insecurity. At the same time, he quietly protected their dignity. This made the entire atmosphere of the competition feel warm and comforting. True kindness, therefore, allows those around us to feel that even the simplest things can be filled with humanity. The ancients once said, "If a wicked deed fears being known, it becomes truly evil. If a good deed seeks to be known, it is not truly good." Kindness requires not only a compassionate heart, but also empathy. Here's a simple example. In one case, a group of entrepreneurs was donating money to support poor children in remote mountainous areas. They planned a donation ceremony to be held at the school sports field, with all the teachers and students in attendance. These entrepreneurs often piled up the cash they planned to donate into a small mountain of money, then invited newspapers and reporters to come take photos of the children standing next to that pile of money. Such public welfare activities continued to take place year after year. At these ceremonies, the entrepreneurs are usually dressed in formal suits, wearing polite smiles as they look into the cameras. Meanwhile, the children, unfamiliar with such grand events, can only lower their heads, clutch the corners of their shirts, and tremble nervously, their faces filled with anxiety. And yet, it doesn't end there. After the photos are taken, the children are made to look straight into the camera and describe just how difficult their family situations are. This practice has caused many of them to lose their optimism and confidence. In the end, although they receive financial support, what they truly gain is a deep sense of shame and inferiority. What these entrepreneurs are doing is not genuine kindness, but ambition cloaked in spotlight, and not goodwill, but malicious intent disguised as compassion. 58. What exactly have we missed in life? Every opportunity in a person's life is a gift from above, even if it's just the chance to hear a beautiful musical note. More importantly, we need a discerning eye to recognize these precious moments so that we don't let them slip away. On a cold winter morning, at a subway station in Washington, a man took out a violin and began to play. He performed all 6 pieces by Bach. On the ground in front of him was a worn-out hat. In the hurried eyes of the passers-by, he was probably just another nameless street performer. 3 minutes passed, and a middle-aged man slowly walked up, paused to listen for a few seconds, then quickly moved on. 4 minutes later, the musician received his first coins. A woman tossed a few dollars into the hat without stopping and continued walking. 6 minutes later, a young man leaned against the wall to listen to him play, then checked his watch and started moving again. 10 minutes later, a little boy about 3 years old stopped in front of the musician, but his mother pulled him away. The boy lingered, staring at the violin, but his mother kept tugging, so he had to go, though he kept turning his head to look back. There were a few other children as well, but all of them were pulled away by their parents. After 45 minutes, he had played a total of 6 pieces. Out of the 1,097 people who passed through the subway station, only 6 stopped to listen for a short while. 20 people gave money and then walked away. No one knew that the violinist performing in that subway station was Joshua Bell, one of the greatest musicians in the world. He played some of the most famous musical pieces using a violin worth $3.5 million, which is equivalent to 80 billion Vietnamese dong. Joshua Bell performed in the subway station for 45 minutes and collected a total of $32. 2 days earlier, Joshua Bell had performed at a theater in Boston. All the tickets had sold out. To sit in the concert hall and hear him play, people had to pay an average of $200. Joshua Bell playing the violin in the subway station was a social experiment by the Washington Post about people's tastes and preferences. In the end, the experiment concluded that even when presented with the world's greatest musician using the finest instrument, we still fail to stop, even for a moment. So in the fast-moving course of our lives, how many other meaningful things have we already missed? In the perception of ordinary people, how could a great musician possibly appear in a subway station? He should only stand on a grand stage. Just like how Chinese people, when seeking gods or pursuing the way, always believe they must travel deep into remote mountains and forests. Yet sometimes the sage and the great way are right in front of us, but very few truly recognize them. Lao Tzu lived in the state of Zhao and once held the position of Keeper of the Archives, equivalent to the Director of the National Library. Everyone knew he was well-versed in both ancient and contemporary knowledge, understood the origins of ritual and music, and grasped the importance of morality. Yet the only person who truly recognized this man of great virtue was Confucius. Confucius traveled from the state of Lu to the state of Zhao to pay his respects to Lao Tzu. After receiving Lao Tzu's teachings, he returned and said to his disciples, "Birds, I know they can fly. Fish, I know they can swim.
Beasts, I know they can run. If they can run, I can catch them with a net. If they can swim, I can hook them with a line. If they can fly, I can shoot them down with a bow. But as for the dragon, I do not know how it rides the wind and soars to the heavens. Today I met Laozi. He is like that dragon, deep and unfathomable.
Later on, Confucius visited Laozi many more times to seek his wisdom, pondering over the great way that Laozi had spoken of. Eventually, he gained true understanding and became a sage himself, hearing the way in the morning and being content to die by evening. If Laozi were to appear in our modern era, walking among ordinary people, much like the musician Joshua Bell quietly performing in a subway corner, would we possess the discerning eyes of Confucius to recognize him? Are we like the people rushing through the subway station, with eyes that look but do not see? What exactly have we missed in the course of our lives? Number 59. Those who are idle often feel sorrow. Those who are lazy often fall ill. Keeping oneself occupied is not the negative thing people often say it is. It is, in fact, a gift from above. Climbing 10 steps without losing a breath is a difficult task even for a young man. Yet Mr. Lai Thiu Lo, at 91 years old, can do it with ease. His secret to staying strong and healthy is never letting himself be idle. Every morning he wakes up at 7 o'clock, then exercises for 1 hour, has breakfast at 8 o'clock, takes a walk, and returns to read the newspaper by 9:30. In the afternoon, he listens to music, practices calligraphy, exercises for another hour, and then spends time helping his wife with housework. There is a saying, an idle person is often sorrowful, a lazy person is often sick, only the busy find joy. This is truly the case. When someone is idle, both their mind and body feel tortured and tormented. In moments of idleness, people can easily fall into negative thinking and blame themselves. Physical laziness also leads to declining health and self-inflicted misery. On the contrary, being busy is a precious remedy in this world. Throughout history, staying busy has always been the starting point for a vibrant life. Japanese writer Kazuo Ishiguro once said, "When I look back on my life in old age and see that I spent it capturing the unique beauty of the world, I believe I will be content with it, and no one will be able to convince me that I wasted that time." There is also a story about a group of elderly people in Taiwan, with an average age of 81, riding motorbikes around the island that touched many hearts. They set off together from north to south, from morning until night, circling the island over 13 days. 2 of them had cancer, 4 needed hearing aids, 8 had heart disease, and each one suffered from joint degeneration. In fact, what they did had nothing to do with age. They could have chosen to spend the rest of their lives confined to a hospital, but instead, they bravely stepped outside. That too is a way of living. Life is inherently full of struggles and hardships, but no matter how tough it gets, if given another life, many would still choose to live it with that same vibrant energy, because only then can you truly understand the real value of life. 60. As long as you know it yourself. After the rain, the little boy spotted a tiny snail by the roadside. He crouched down, picked it up, and gently placed it in the grass. "Don't go wandering around," his grandmother called out to him. The boy looked up with his round little face and excitedly said, "I'm rescuing the snail. It was in the middle of the road, and that's really dangerous. I brought it home." His grandmother looked puzzled. "Does the snail know you saved it?" The boy replied, "It probably doesn't." Grandma said, "Then didn't you do a good deed for nothing? Who would even know you saved the snail?" The boy immediately answered, "As long as I know it myself, that's enough. I saved a snail, and that makes me happy." This simple statement from the child carried a profound meaning about life and philosophy. We do good deeds not so others will know. Even the person we help doesn't need to know.
As long as we know it ourselves, that's enough. Because doing good allows us to feel our own existence, to affirm that we truly believe we are kind-hearted. This aligns with what we expect of ourselves, and so we allow ourselves to keep doing good. And just like that, we feel happy.
This is the deepest meaning behind doing good deeds. It is also our original, purest intention. Unfortunately, most people today are too driven by practicality and self-interest, which ends up distorting their actions. When we help someone, we often expect them to express gratitude. We also hope for something in return, even if it's just a simple thank you. Or we may hope that others find out about it, so we can gain their recognition and praise. If we don't receive that, many of us naturally won't feel willing to do good deeds. In reality, letting others know we're doing something good is of course understandable, but more importantly, knowing it ourselves is what truly matters. Because we are still alive, ultimately, we are living for ourselves, not for others. No matter how much others praise or repay us, in the end, it is our own heart that must affirm who we are. The happiest person is the one who is truly content with ourselves. Otherwise, even if the whole world sings your praises, but deep inside you feel you have done many wrong or bad things and are unworthy of that praise, then still you cannot find happiness or peace.